This broadcast is sponsored in part by Hendrick Automotive Group. Live from Charlotte, this is WBTV News on your side.
New at 11 o'clock, thousands of your students now going back to learning fully from home. Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools voting tonight to go back to Plan C, what that means for your family. The CMS parents and teachers divided on the board's decision, some wanting kids to stay in classrooms, others wanting kids to stay home. We are talking with all different people involved in these decisions tonight. Plus, a new stay-at-home order going into effect in North Carolina later this week as the state sets another COVID-19 record. A jam-packed show for you this evening. A lot of headlines and information for all of us to digest. Good evening and welcome. I'm Molly Grantham. First, let's talk about that stay-at-home order. It requires you to stay at home between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Most businesses must close by 10 p.m. Bars and restaurants cannot sell alcohol on site after 9 p.m. But this will not impact traveling for work, grocery shopping, getting medical attention, and religious services. Restaurants can still offer drive-through, delivery, and carry-out services after 10 p.m. Governor Roy Cooper said more restrictions, though, are still on the table.
And let me be clear, we will do more if our trends do not improve. That means additional actions involving indoor restaurant dining, entertainment facilities, or shopping and retail capacity. None of us wants that.
Coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to check in with our Alex Giles, who talked with people about the new order tonight and what they think of these changes. But we need to get back to that decision that will impact your CMS student and you as a parent or you as a teacher. The school board voted to send most students back to full remote learning. We have team coverage for you tonight. Our Courtney Cole heard from parents and teachers for and against this decision, but we start with Ron Lee, who is breaking down what you need to know, what just happened in this meeting. I mean, Ron, it took a long time to hear from all sides during the board meeting before they made this decision.
Molly, you really hit the nail on the head on that one. It took over 5 hours for the board members to come back with a decision that CMS will now once again be completely virtual starting next week. But let me tell you, they took a lot of heat from people who were at that meeting tonight. Well, let's take a look at the numbers and see how it all shook out. The CMS plan shifts into full remote learning starting next Monday through January 15th with the actual return date of January 19th. Pre-K students will be offered an in-person learning objective. One of the big questions are those EOC exams. Those will continue as planned. Now, students can either take them in person or remotely, depending on their situation. Now, most of the members were on board with the plan, but a couple of them raised concerns, quoting Dr. Fauci when he said that he thought it was okay if students returned back to class. But the metrics from the health department was really enough to sway most on the board, and in a 6-3 vote, they did decide to go ahead and put the school system back on Plan C. But for those voting tonight, there was plenty of friendly fire from all sides.
We have taken one crisis of COVID-19 and turned it into a bigger crisis, and that's the collapse of our educational system.
How do you know if the virus is spreading in the schools if you're not testing every single student, teacher, and staff member, since a large portion of the people who have this virus are asymptomatic and spread it to others?
Most scientists are describing this coming winter as a very dark period of time.
CMS, you can and must do better.
If you vote tonight to put everyone on Plan C, you take away the only option for in-person education.
What's being considered tonight, going full remote, is in complete defiance of every school recommendation on a national, state, and local level.
Who wants safer schools now? And until we get there, Plan C is best.
Now, a lot of parents did get up to speak tonight, as well as teachers, and they said that they were really concerned that their students weren't learning as well doing remote learning as opposed to in-person learning. But School Superintendent Winston also addressed those concerns, saying that he spoke to a lot of students out there lately, and he says that the remote learning has gotten much better than when the plan was first implemented. Molly?
Okay, so Ron, let's talk about this. Pre-K students are exempt from this new decision. They get in-person learning, the pre-K students. Did the board say why they decided this age group gets to go back to school?
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that was a point of contention with a lot of people tonight. The school board said that that age group really is not very susceptible to the virus, but they need the most in-person learning at that age in life.
Okay, Ron Lee, so that's what happened in the school board meeting tonight. You said 5 hours long, but those decisions, of course, elicit strong emotions. We are talking about our kids and teachers and emotional well-being, along with being safe from illness, and they can all hold some heavy opinions. Our Courtney Cole was talking with teachers and parents tonight. She is now live. Courtney, some of those parents want to go back to Plan C and all virtual, others pushing to keep in-person a choice. Lots of thoughts on this one.
Molly, like you said, it's been a very emotional afternoon and leading up to this evening with the board's final vote. And while it's a relief for many teachers who want to stay at home and students who want to stay at home, it was upsetting for parents whose students thrived in the classroom, who say that they miss their friends, they miss the learning environment, and they miss how things used to be. Parents and students shouting safer at school argued it's best students return to the classroom. They say Plan C would take away the ability to choose how students learn.
We should have a choice, and they deserve a choice. We all deserve a choice. And for us, that choice is being in school.
But on the opposite side, this CMS teacher says the inconsistency between going back and forth from remote to in-person would weigh the students down more and agreed with the plan to go fully remote.
This constant upheaval does far greater damage to a child's psyche than remote learning.
Students in favor of in-person learning argue that their social skills and performance were declining.
Some of the work that the teachers are giving the people in the classroom, the students at home aren't receiving, so they're falling all behind in everything that they need to be doing.
One CMS ninth grader also shared her thoughts on remote learning. She says even if every measure was taken for in-person learning, that there would still be a risk for students, teachers, and families. Now, again, students will return to fully remote learning starting next week until January 15th, and then they will go back to in-person learning. Right now, that's scheduled for January 19th. For now, I'm reporting live at Harding University High School. Courtney Cole, WBTV, on your side.
And Courtney, thank you. Also today, a hearing on a lawsuit against the CMS school board over remote learning is being rescheduled. It was supposed to happen today, but the judge in the case ended up recusing himself because he's a parent to 3 CMS students. The hearing will likely be rescheduled, we're told, for sometime in January. Now, across North Carolina, we've seen COVID-19 cases rising. Here in Mecklenburg County, the county reported 864 new cases of the virus in the last 24 hours. 3 more people have died from it in Mecklenburg County. As of Sunday, 11% of tests were coming back positive. And today we learned CMPD Police Chief Johnny Jennings is among some of the new cases in the county. On Twitter, Chief Jennings posted a series of messages, and one he says he feels fatigued, but otherwise feels fine. And tonight, sources told us Chief Jennings was on a private flight with 2 other local leaders last week. Jennings, Mecklenburg County District Attorney Spencer Merriweather, and District Court Judge Elizabeth Trosh took a private plane to Wilmington for a site visit on youth violence. That was December 2nd. Well, Judge Trosh started to feel sick the next day. She tested positive on December 4th. Sources tell us both Jennings and Merriweather both went into quarantine at that time, and tonight Merriweather has tested negative for the virus, but we're told he'll stay in quarantine for the recommended time period. Our sources also say all 3 wore masks and social distanced on that private plane, which was paid for by a private family foundation, not taxpayers. Now, across the state, another record number of people in the hospital because of the virus. More than 2,300 people hospitalized tonight. That's 133 more people than the state reported yesterday. On top of that, we saw more than 4,600 new cases of COVID-19 today. You know, we've been tracking the cases since the pandemic started, and you can see here how quickly the rolling average jumped in the last week and a half. We are now, right now, at the highest point since March. The state updated its COVID-19 county alert map today as well. It shows through colors how much the virus is spreading in the county. This is a look at our area. 13 counties are now in the red zone. That's the highest zone, a critical level of spread. Mecklenburg County, you'll see there, is now in orange. That's one step below red, a substantial level of spread. But you can see how the map compares to just a few weeks ago, November 17th, when just 3 counties were in the red zone. All of those numbers add up to Governor Roy Cooper taking additional steps tonight to slow the spread of the virus. Cooper says he is issuing a modified stay-at-home order. So how does that impact you? Here it is again. You will soon be required to be at home between 10 and 5 a.m. Most businesses will be required to close by 10 p.m. and bars and restaurants cannot sell alcohol on site after 9 p.m. This all starts Friday. And WBTV's Alex Giles is talking with people about this. He is live right now. Alex, you've been out there all night. What kind of reactions are you getting?
Well, Molly, I talked to several people on camera, several people off camera who didn't want to be identified, and I found that nobody really seemed shocked by the fact that we were going to be having more restrictions here in North Carolina. Everybody seemed very aware that our numbers and our trends were not headed in the right direction, so nobody really seemed surprised by the fact that more restrictions are coming, regardless of how they actually feel about the restrictions.
Jeff Tony Dandle owns a few different restaurants right here in the popular Nodon neighborhood, Haberdish and Growler's Poorhouse, among others. He says the eateries will definitely take a hit because of these new restrictions that are coming.
It's a big impact on us. We're in Noda. It's a fun, vibrant place. A lot of young people go to hang out there. People, usually staying out a little bit later. So, yeah, I think it's gonna impact us a lot.
Tony Dandle says he's not surprised by the governor's tightened restrictions, and he understands the decision. He notes that running businesses during the pandemic has been a challenge, and he says his employees are working less hours and making less money.
They're all struggling. They're all scraping by. They're doing the best they can. We're in a really tough spot where it's not a profitable environment.
But Governor Roy Cooper argues that the restrictive environment is necessary to prevent further spread of the coronavirus.
Our new modified stay-at-home order aims to limit gatherings and get people home where they are safer.
Some people I talked to Tuesday night agreed with the governor's order.
I think it's a good idea. Maybe it'll hold this corona down.
Whatever gets people healthy, right? Like, just do it for a little bit and then hopefully we'll figure this all out.
But others disagree. Savannah Martinez says she works in the restaurant industry.
I mean, I think there's a little bit of it that's good and bad both ways, but I think some of the restrictions are just too much for the citizens of this country and too much for people who are just trying to make an honest living.
Tony Dandle says he'll keep adjusting to the new rules, but he's calling on the government to dole out financial assistance to businesses impacted by the restrictions.
We just hope that there's some sort of support. If you're going to close restaurants down, then have some support on the back end.
Again, these new restrictions take effect on Friday. They are set to be in place until at least January. Reporting live, Alex Giles, WBTV, on your side.
Alex, thank you. Next at 11 o'clock, Chief Meteorologist Eric Thomas tracking another cold night, Eric.
I'll tell you what, the cold snap is back, Molly, but this time I think we bottomed out. You want a warming trend? We've got it. Stay tuned. It's your First Alert forecast.
Plus, COVID-19 cases rising in almost every state in the U.S. tonight, not just the Carolinas, as other countries start the process of vaccinating those most at risk. That's the first woman to get a vaccine in the U.K. We'll talk about her next. You're watching Charlotte's best and most trusted news at 11 o'clock. We'll be right back. In another top story tonight, 3 people died after a crash in Catawba County this afternoon. State troopers tell us it happened about a mile north of Balls Creek Elementary School. We are told Bobby Payne Jr. was driving a car too fast, lost control, overcorrected, and hit another car head-on. Payne died at the scene. Both the driver and passenger of the other car, Larry Sims Jr. and Chastity Spears, also died. We are just 2 days away from a possible COVID-19 vaccine here in the U.S. Now, meanwhile, vaccinations are already starting in other countries. CBS News' Danya Bacchus shares an update on our progress and introduces us to the first person to get the Pfizer vaccine.
The United Kingdom's coronavirus immunization effort is now underway. In Coventry, England, 90-year-old Margaret Keenan became the first person to receive the Pfizer vaccine.
Hopefully it'll help other people to come along and do as I did.
Officials are making plans to start distributing the vaccine in the U.S. In a new report, the FDA said it appears to be both effective and safe. An independent advisory panel will vote Thursday on whether to recommend the vaccine. If it does, the agency is expected to issue an emergency use authorization.
Today we're on the verge of another American medical miracle.
President Trump convened a vaccine summit at the White House on Tuesday.
Every American who wants the vaccine will be able to get the vaccine. And we think by spring we're going to be in a position that nobody would have believed possible just a few months ago.
The vaccine is arriving as the U.S. continues to set records for new infections and hospitalizations.
I'm not surprised. People they're still out and about, hoping that if they, continue to live their life, this too shall pass.
Cities and states across the country are enacting new measures to slow the virus's spread. Washington State extended its stay-at-home order through January 4th. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Thousands of more restaurants say they may have to permanently close in the next 3 weeks because of the pandemic. That's on top of 110,000 that have already closed in 2020 amid the pandemic. The National Restaurant Association is pleading with Congress to pass new stimulus to help the industry. Other businesses are still hanging on for now, many having to adapt to stay afloat. That includes this family-owned business in Statesville. The owner of Hughes Sheet Metal came up with a plan to not only help his business, but keep 11 employees on the job. Daryl Moose started creating what he calls personal protection guards. It's similar to the plexiglass barriers you see at stores, but Moose says these are safer.
Trying to protect someone from one thing, but then try to, have a safety issue with another.
Moose adds this year was the worst year for his business since his father opened it in 1968. Some of our local health heroes have been pitching into places across the country hit hardest by the pandemic. We have talked with several of them over the past many months, including tonight with Corinne Chosey. She's a nurse from Union County. She works at Atrium Health, and for more than a month, Corinne worked in a tent hospital in Central Park in New York City. She was there with Samaritan's Purse, working every day, covered head to toe in PPE. Our Jamie Bull talked with her earlier this evening in our series of Faces of COVID.
It's physically exhausting because, like I said, the gear that was saving your life was also very hot and very uncomfortable. We all sort of came to the same realization that almost no one was going to survive once they were on the ventilator at that point, and it was extremely discouraging.
When Corinne made it back home, she couldn't immediately see her family. After treating COVID patients, she had to quarantine the next 2 weeks in a shed in her backyard. You can see the full interview online if you missed it tonight at 7:30. Just go to WBTV.com/tonight. We will be posting all of the Faces of COVID stories there this week if you can't watch live at 7:30 p.m. Time to get another look at the forecast tonight with Chief Meteorologist Eric Thomas. Eric, we are in for another cold night, but the good news is it's the last bitterly cold evening we'll have for a few days, right?
Dead on, Molly. And in fact, you've heard of the phrase, the physical concept that warm air rises. Correct? Yeah,
right.
We're going to use that concept, that physical principle right now to illustrate the very first hint that warming trend is on the way. Watch this. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, here's the story. 7 o'clock this evening. Now, you wouldn't normally think of heading up to Beach Mountain at 5,500 feet into the atmosphere to depict a warming trend, but that is exactly where it's starting because warm air rises. So the warm air is arriving here first at Beach Mountain. 7 o'clock, 13 degrees. How about that? At 8 o'clock, well, wait a minute. Now they're up to 15 degrees. No change through 9 o'clock. What about 10 o'clock? They're up to 16 degrees. 10:30, they bounced up 5 degrees. They're up to 21 degrees now. I think they fell back to 20 here at 11. And in fact, they're even competing with areas now around Albemarle, only about a 5-degree difference. So the warm air is starting to, warmer air. It's up to 21 degrees there. But you get the idea. You see the trend. And so for the rest of us, yeah, we will be the beneficiaries of that going forward. It's been all downhill since last Friday. We bottomed out today, but here we go. Now we'll start to see that warm air come down to the lower elevations as well over the next 2 days. We'll be back into the 60s. But for now, that's a lot of cold air across the eastern half of the country. A little bit of cloud cover working its way down from the Ohio Valley. It's the mid-high level variety. There's no rain associated with that. And this is what Molly was asking about. Look at these temperatures. Yes, very cold through the entire night. But let's get you out the door. 29 degrees. Here it is in the Queen City. Quiet weather, as I said. And yeah, it's just going to be cold all the way up through the mountains. 26 degrees for you at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So that little bit of high level cloud cover is just going to blow on through. So we have nothing but sunshine there for you, even though it is in precious few quantities now with the sun setting here just after 5 o'clock. So enjoy it while you can. Upper 40s to, well, mid-50s there during your afternoon hours. And all of our surrounding communities, good shape. Just keep the jacket handy, as you will manage to, at least to get back into the 50s tomorrow. We failed to hit 50 today. So what about disruptive weather? Any rain on the horizon? This is a little bit interesting here. Yeah, to say the least. This is Sunday night with rain arriving. Now, I'm showing you the European model, very aggressive with developing this next system. Sunday night, Monday, look out. Here comes heavy rain. Doesn't look like it's in a hurry to move out, even by 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon. We're still not done with this, as now snow is wrapping back into the mountains Monday night into Tuesday morning. Good golly, that's a significant storm system. So why is it then that Eric is only showing you about a 30% chance of any of that happening? That seems odd. Well, here's why. Because we look at a variety of data, and when you look at the GFS model, how about this now? Sunday, where's the rain? None of it arrived, although it did develop a little bit of snow in the mountains. Now remember, that heavy rain was all day Monday. Nothing. Zero. Zip. Nothing to show you here. And then, in fact, we'll take you through the day on Tuesday. Same deal. It is just one quiet weather pattern. So a lot of uncertainty with this, and so we're not going to sell out on any solution just yet. So 26 tomorrow morning, 50s and 60s, and we'll keep it there into the weekend. Very dry, very pleasant. And then again, Molly, we're just going to allow for some showers getting in here late Sunday and then into Monday, but we're not going to forecast that washout yet, but stay tuned. Back to you.
Okay, Eric, thank you. Next here at 11 o'clock, would you get back on a Boeing 737 MAX plane? They're back in the air tonight with passengers when a U.S. airline plans to send them on trips again. Tonight, the U.S. Supreme Court denied a request from Republicans in Pennsylvania on the presidential election. The party wanted to reverse the state's certification of President-elect Joe Biden's victory. The court sent a one-line order with no noted dissents. Biden won 306 electoral votes, so even if Pennsylvania's 20 electoral votes were in doubt, he would still have the more than 270 needed to become president. President Donald Trump has 232, so he'd still be short with Pennsylvania's 20 votes. Meanwhile, thousands of voters who didn't vote in November are registering to vote in the state's runoffs. Under Georgia law, you have to be at least 17 and a half to register, and as long as you're 18 by the time you vote. So people who were not able to vote on November 3rd, but who turn 18 by the runoff on January 5th, will be able to cast a ballot. Rock the Vote, a nonpartisan voter engagement group, says nearly 3,000 Georgia voters registered or updated their registration through its platform before yesterday's deadline. And noon now at 11 o'clock, a Brazilian airline is the first one in the world to resume Boeing 737 MAX flights. Passengers flew on the first flight today from Sao Paulo. It is the first flight with passengers in nearly 2 years after 2 deadly crashes killed more than 340 people. The airline says passengers who are not comfortable flying on a 737 MAX will be allowed to change their ticket. Now, American Airlines says it will restart MAX flights later this month. Final check of your forecast with Eric when we come back. Eric Thomas, one final check of the forecast.
Okay, Molly. Well, if you were by chance looking forward to December, then you were enjoying this trend, because you know December is associated with cool air, and boy, that's exactly where we've been heading over the last 4 or 5 days. But now, for the fans of mild weather, that is on the way back as well. 60s. Now, what about rain? I really don't see much here for the end of the week, but as we get you into late Sunday, showers, according to the European model, are going to be moving in with heavy rain overnight into Monday. All day Monday, maybe ending Monday night with snow coming in. That's going to be overnight Monday into Tuesday. As I told you earlier, though, we're not going to sell out just yet with a washout, because the GFS could not be more diametrically opposite, introducing a little snow Sunday night, no rain anywhere. So this one has got us scratching our heads just a little bit, and this is what we're going to keep an eye on. But until then, we are going to get you through the rest of this week and into the weekend. No problem at all, especially with this warming trend. Molly, a couple of showers, as said. We think best chance would be later on Sunday and then into Monday and Tuesday. Back to you.
Okay, Eric, thank you. And thank you for joining us here tonight at 11 o'clock. We'll see you back here again tomorrow night, same time. Have a good one. Good night.